This is Dangerous Potential, and we are returning in triumph. Today, I want to share with you guys and talk to you about my post-conversion, not my post-conviction. How people reacted within the prison, other gangs and gang leaders and members of my newfound faith in God. And before I get into that, I want to share with you, rewind to my beginnings of my growth and development, my educational background. And I pretty much left off in the 6th grade. And I learned how to read and write in prison. And it was in Trenton State Prison in New Jersey, confined in the maximum security prison of MCU, the Management Control Unit, special housing. We were separated and from the general population. That's where they put gang leaders and guys that were never getting out, guys that were a threat to the security of the institution and to other inmates and prison guards and officials as well. And it was one man to a cell. And next door to me was one of the leaders of the BLA. He was in his mid-50s. And he at that age, he had a six-pack like a 19-year-old. And he had great influence. And many of the guys in the general population always try to take a peek at him and to reach out to him whenever that's the only time I got to really communicate with him was when we were allowed 2 to 3 times recreation time in the outside yard. And to get to the outside yard, we were escorted by an array of prison guards. And before going into the prison yard that we were allotted to for our section, we would see the general population at times coming from the mess hall or from other parts of the prison from visiting. From the visiting hall, and they would get a chance to see this leader of the BLA and the Black Liberation Army, revolutionary movement, and he was a very well known and respected and feared individual. And many of the guys, when they would see him, they would call to him and send him their greetings and stuff. And that's when I got to realize who this guy was and the weight that he carried. And as I got to know him, I discovered that he was the boyfriend of Joanne Chesimar, also known as Assata Shakur, who allegedly was charged with the murder of a state trooper in the New Jersey Turnpike. And allegedly, it was said that my neighbor, my friend, this leader, had sent his soldiers in the street to go break out his love, Assata Shakur, at a Clinton prison. And she's supposedly in Cuba. She sought political asylum over there. And so this is the guy that I was pretty much indoctrinated by the books that he would pass to me and the things that he taught me about revolutions and political science and philosophy. Books that I read from Franz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, and the Black Panther Party, Huey Newton, those guys, Geronimo Pratt, Genghis Khan, the Mongolian Conqueror, history, and the philosophies of Fyodor Dostoevsky and Anton Chekhov. And these books really put an imprint, an indelible mark in my life. And that is where I started to learn how to, hone my skills in reading. And I learned the power of debate and persuasion and how to be an effective leader. And the charges that he was facing were bank robberies and murders and pretty much the RICO Act. And so this is my growth and development within Trenton State Prison. I didn't make it past the 6th grade. And this is where, that was my high school and my college. And that was where I pretty much built myself up to prepare myself for the prison. And I knew that I had a power in me to lead others. And unfortunately, I used that power to bring great devastation and great destruction, where I destroyed a lot of lives, their minds, the minds of people, and I used them for my benefit and gain. And although there were relationships, comrades in arms, where I had affection for these guys, and I was willing to lay down my life for them. And the bond between us, and it's us against the world. So I left. I was extradited from. This is before I even became a gangster in the sense of the gangs in Chicago. You got Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, and Vice Lords, and all that. And that's before I hit those gangs. Before I got into those gangs, the gang that I was affiliated with was more revolution, underground, revolutionary, philosophical, mind empowerment, gangs, so, Chicago had ordered my extradition to face charges of homicide over there in Chicago, Illinois. And I fought my extradition from Trenton State Prison and ultimately lost. They give you 30 days to come pick you up. And when 27th day came, 28th day come, they're not coming to get me. Even the guys that was in Trenton with me said, hey, man, they're not even coming for you, man. You might just let this go. In Chicago, that's a big place. And, so the 29th day, I remember a guard came to my cell and put a letter with big bold black letters, extradition, and Chicago, Illinois. And he told me, he said, listen, man, pack your stuff, get your stuff ready. I know it's early, but I got to prepare you. These guys from Chicago is here to come get you, the extradition team. So I was like, man, I thought I had this, I was over with this, so that was the beginning of a new journey, a new chapter in my book. And I didn't know what awaited me in Chicago. I heard stories about that's Chicago, supposedly the motherland of gangs and all this stuff. And, so, I had to get my mind prepared for this transition. And so I got over there and was led into Cook County Jail. And at that time, they would fly you in an airplane. Now they got this transport. They put you in a van with 6 other guys. So I had the liberty of just being alone at that time and just going on the plane. And so, I got to Cook County Jail, and it's where, years went by and I got in the gang and I put my bones in and rose within the ranks. So I'm cutting a lot because it's a long story. But ultimately, I got to Chicago and 3-4 years went by, and gradually I rose in the ranks until I became one of the influential leaders within the hierarchy of the gang. And I was not only close with the guys within my gang, the Latin Kings, but I befriended other leaders of other gangs like the Vice Lords and even the opposition, gangster disciples. Seems like they're more cooperative and more friendly with each other than in the street. Because in the street, if you at the wrong place with the wrong colors or teardrops on the wrong side of the face, they're not going to ask you no questions. They're going to just take you out. It's different than over here. I mean, in Newark, I see Bloods and Crips hanging together, or you could go anywhere over here and they won't go off of your colors. It's pretty much drug related where violence and bloodshed starts. In Chicago, it's not, everything's with drugs, but in Chicago, at least in my time, they didn't care about the drug selling. It was about what set you from, if you're the opposition, you can't just go anywhere. There were places we wanted to go to that we couldn't go because it was enemy territory, so, but anyway, through the years in Chicago, I got real close with these guys, so after my conversion is where I want to get to, how these guys reacted to my conversion. I remember one Vice Lord in particular, and I'm going to mention his name. I didn't mention the gang leader of the BLA because he's more political and I don't want to say anything about that. But this guy in Chicago, he was one of the leaders of the Gangster Disciples, the GDs. His name was Ghetto, and very charismatic guy and very intelligent. And he had great power within his organization, within the Gangster Disciples. And the leader, like the chairman, they call him, Larry Hoover. This guy Ghetto was under Larry Hoover. And so, he had a great responsibility. He had many soldiers under his command. At the time that I was there was a war. Right in the midst of my conversion, there was a war with the Gangster Disciples and the Vice Lords, the Four Corner Hustler Vice Lords. And I was real close to the leader, the prince. They called him the prince of the Four Corner Hustler Vice Lords. And I was real close with the leader of the Gangster Disciples. And so I'm stuck in the middle because often I would they would move me around different parts of the jail. Cook County is one of the biggest county jails, and I think the most violent next to LA, if you ask me. And it's huge. So they have 11 divisions. As I recall, I could be wrong, they could have added another one, but the last division that they built was between 95 and 1996. And those are the times I was there in the early 90s, extradited from Trenton State Prison. And 11 divisions. One division is as big as Essex County Jail in New Jersey or Middlesex County Jail in North Brunswick. One division. So they had 11 divisions. That's pretty much a prison. So, but Division 1 was known as the murder division, where if you just charge a murder, the main heads, the main gang leaders went to Division 1. That's actually the division where they housed Al Capone back in the day. And that's the division that all the big leaders like Chief Malik, Jeff Fort for the Blackstone, the El Rukns leaders, and Larry Hoover for the GDs, and Lord Gino for the Latin Kings, which was the organization that I pertained to. Anytime that I would, they moved me around to different divisions to break up my activity and my influence. And so at that time I had prison guards that would bring in drugs to me, and I would sell them and I would pay them and stuff, so, and we often did business with one another. And there were times where I didn't have a guard, but I had the means, and this guy had the guard, so I will go through him, or vice versa. So that's how me and different gang leaders got affiliated, and we, grew in relationship. So that's why there's more cooperation, because we need each other. That's the point that I'm trying to make.